What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. We're flying solo as of the moment. I believe Emilio will be joining us shortly. Tim and Jacob are both on assignment tonight. I think we know where Jacob's at, but you know how that goes. We got the chat filing in here. Appreciate everybody making us a part of your evening. We got Greg Rice in the house, Josh Vallantingham, the Aggressiver UFO, I think that's right. Chris, the casual in the house. Good to see you, buddy. Been good hanging out with everybody on the Patreon group and just talking about prospects and everything, man. This is a fun time of the year as we're closing in, man. We're just about a month away from the NFL draft. We're going to be in Green Bay, Wisconsin, covering the draft. Obviously going to be there for part of it, hanging out with everybody, and then going back to Command Central and doing a live stream. It's going to be, I'm so glad I let my wife talk me into going. Because I knew we would regret it if we didn't. And I'm already, again, a month out, and you continue to get more and more excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. And looking forward to meeting many people there as well. We got Bates in the house, Ron Sample, Drew D, Josh Vallantingham. I think I said Josh already. Prince in the house, Respect Oranges. Good to see everybody. Hit that like button on the way in if you don't mind. Now, we had a little bit of breaking news earlier today, which is really cool. We've been talking a lot about James Pierce Jr., and we've kind of followed along this entire process. If you guys have watched this channel for some time, back in the off season, we were doing a little show that we call, College Football Total Access. So we started kind of dabbling a bit into college football podcasts. And now the reason we stopped doing that was because it didn't get a lot of views, didn't get a lot of listens. And I think it's because, most people don't follow college football. They're just Packer fans in here. And we didn't want to continue to pump out content that people didn't want to watch, right? But what we do remember is toward the end of the season, James Pierce Jr. was like the second highest rated prospect on the consensus big board. He was right there in the top 5 the entire time. And then all of a sudden you get into the off season, into what we call lying season, and he starts to drop a little bit, right? And you hear these rumblings about potential character issues and this and that. Now, if you guys have watched the show here recently, we did a full deep dive into that. We came away as a group saying there's nothing there. Little bit different with Mike Green. We came away from that one going, that's a little shaky. So we did mark our board like, hey, dig a little deeper into the personal stuff before you draft him, is kind of how we would approach that if we were the GM, if we were the front office. With James Pierce Jr., came away totally different, right? So we've been talking about James Pierce Jr. a lot, and on our draft board, he's ranked really, really high. We actually have him as the 10th best prospect. And listen, that's not my personal opinion. You guys know how our board's created. I didn't go and watch the tape and go, yep, James Pierce Jr. is better than this guy. We took a multitude of factors and threw him into the hopper here. Basically, in 2023, he was the 12th highest graded edge defender in all of college football. He dropped to 28th, which is still a very high score. It's probably in the 80s, I'm sure. The PFF Big Board had him at 29 at the end of the college football season. And by the end of the college football season, the consensus Big Board had him at 13. So he was still a top 15 pick, according to the consensus Big Board, going into the offseason, right? Well, Daniel Jeremiah had him in the 20 spot. The 33rd team and Kyle Krabs had him in the 13 spot. Dane Brugler has him in the 21 spot. And he scored a 9+ RAS. So he's checked the boxes all the way across the board. Now, we heard early on, I think it might have been at the Combine, that the Packers had met with him. So we, slapped the cheese emoji up on him, right? Because obviously the Packers are showing a little bit of interest in him. It's not quite a top 30 visit, but, it's interest. He was also a captain of the University of Tennessee football team. And it just so happens, I did a deep dive earlier today on thresholds, and he just about meets the maximum criteria in terms of athletic threshold, right? So when you look at our board, what you have with James Pierce Jr. is you've got a solid grade of 13.6 showing him as the 10th best prospect. You've got PFF checks out. You've got our head scouts, right, in Dane Brugler and Daniel Jeremiah and Kyle Krabs. That all checks out across the board. The RAS checks out. And now all of a sudden today we had some breaking news as it was reported by @Jacobson on Twitter. Easton Butler tweeted it out and brought it to my attention. The Packers are hosting Tennessee edge defender James Pierce on a top 30 visit. So now on the board, he has the target emoji, right? So essentially, we've got our first prospect on the board that's got 4 emojis. Now, keep in mind, and I'm going to leave this up to the group and Tim and Emilio, who joins us now. We're going to kind of dive in and decide what do we want to do in terms of the threshold. Do we want to make it like absolute stickler that they've got to meet that maximum threshold of everything, or do we want to kind of, give and take a little bit? Because with James Pierce Jr., what it essentially comes down to is he's about 10 to 12 pounds off. He's about 10 to 12 pounds light for the edge position. That's the minimum aspect of what that threshold would be, if that makes sense. So
he's 10 pounds lighter than where our minimum number would be.
It's pretty close, yeah.
I think weight would be the only one I would be a little bit more lenient on. I think, like we've talked about, you can't teach height and hand size and all that. So let's go from there and see. But I would say maybe we could be lenient on weight, but we'll talk about it for sure.
Yeah. So like, here's the article I put together for our Patreon group earlier today. I said, which defenders in this year's draft meet the Packers athletic threshold. Okay. And I'm just going to read here for just a second to give you guys a little background as to how we came up with these numbers. It says edge defenders are a tricky bunch since they blur the lines between 4-3 defensive ends and 34 outside linebackers. Depending on the scheme, for the Green Bay Packers, who run a base 4-3 under Jeff Hafley, we're mostly looking at guys who play defensive end in their system, hand in the dirt rushers who can set the edge and chase quarterbacks. But some 3-4 outside linebackers could slide into that role too, especially if they've got the size and versatility to adapt. I'll dig into the 2025 NFL draft class with full combine data as of March 21st, 2025, and ID those who hit the Packers' athletic thresholds: height, weight, arm length, 40-yard dash, 3-cone, short shuttle, bench press, vertical, and broad jump. Let's roll. So we jump in, and here's what the historical thresholds are, Emilio. The Packers target edge defenders who can dominate in their 4-3 front. Think Rashawn Gary, 6'5", 277 with an RAS of 995, or Preston Smith, 6'5", 265, RAS of 862. They need speed to rush, power to stop the run, and agility to drop occasionally. And people may roll their eyes at that, but how many times last year did we holler 55 drop on Chalk Talk? Because Kingsley Enagbare was dropping into coverage. If anything, James Pierce Jr. is more equipped to do that, then, it's like if you put him in that position and said, okay, yeah, he's 10 pounds lighter than we actually would want him to be, or maybe even 20 pounds lighter, right? Whatever it may be. And we'll get to it right here in a second. The fact that he can drop into coverage, you've seen that at Tennessee a time or two as well. And boy, is he quick. I mean, he looks fluid. Someone had put the tweet out of him at the combine, and they were like, this dude looks like a DB back here running these shuttle drills.
Right. So, and you can't the bending, the smoothness in the hips and the ankles and the fluidity, all that stuff. That's key. I mean, you have to have that. You're more flexible. All that helps you. I think that having him, they ran mostly a 4-2-5 most of the time. So he's kind of used to that nickel look. I think when we're looking at our numbers, we also did just have the 1 year right as our 4-3. Preston being the number, and then I think maybe we need to look at LVN and maybe taking Enagbari's height. Maybe we get a little bit tighter average on it, but I think that it's completely fair that we want a little bit of height over there because you need that reach to get out on the lineman.
Definitely. So here are all the requirements, okay? And you'll notice in parentheses, it'll give a little bit more detail. Height is 6'3" plus 6'4" plus is preferred. So anybody 6'3" and above kind of meets their recent criteria.
Okay.
Weight 250 plus, but 260 pound plus is ideal. Well, he comes in at 245 pounds, I think. So you're talking
that's no
about
problem. I'll take that.
Exactly. So if he's at 245 and you tack on 10 pounds, well, now he's at 255. It's still on the low end. You'd like to be him to be 260 plus, but 255 for someone who's an absolute speed demon coming off the edge.
Yep.
Tackle well too. I mean, come on, what are we even talking?
Well, and I thought I'm glad you didn't say it. I thought he was going to come in 225, 235. Right. Lean mean, and that would have been tough to kind of take. But that's not a problem for me at all. I think that would be one we could go with.
Yeah. So the rest of the thresholds are arm length 33 inches plus length to, or it says 33 inches plus, and that's just length to disengage. Right. When you've got that arm length, it doesn't allow those blockers to really get you in close. You can keep a distance, hand fight, and keep that separation. 40-yard dash is a sub 4.8 or a sub 4.7 would be elite in their threshold. Three cone drill is a sub 7.4 agility for bend, and he's definitely got that. Short shuttle, a sub 4.5 seconds. Lateral burst, bench press, 20 plus reps, strength at the point of attack. Vertical jump is 32 inches. That's for explosiveness. We talked about that explosion grade that you typically get because you get your broad jump and your vertical jump. They'll take that. And I want to say they take the 40, maybe the 10-yard split. And that would, in the old days they did, they may have changed it. That would be combined to be the explosion grade.
Right.
Broad jump, 9'6", plus, that's lower body power, obviously, and an RAS of 8+, but 9+ is the goal. So those
LBN was 9+, right? RAS.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was a dog. Yeah, no doubt. So it says, here's the breakdown of notable edge defenders, 4-3 DNs, 3-4 outside linebackers who could fit Green Bay's 4-3 DN role from the 2025 Combine using official stats. I'll flag those who hit the Packers thresholds and estimate RAS where possible. Some top guys sat out drills, so I'll project based on tape and buzz. All right. So right at the top of the list, James Pierce Jr., 6'5", 243. And you see how it says he's light there, right?
Yep.
I wish that went next to my name when I went to the doctor. Oh, he's a little light. I don't have that problem. Arm length, 33.5 inches. 40-yard dash, 4.47 40-yard dash. Three cones, 7.12. Short shuttle, 4.35. Bench press, 21 reps. Vertical, 34 inches. Broad jump, 10'3" on the broad jump. His RAS estimated at about a 9.5. Fit, yes, Pierce is under 250 pounds, but his 4'4", 740, and explosiveness 10'3" broad are elite. Bendy, speed rusher, top 10 lock is what it said.
You know all he needs?
Cheese curds make my stomach hurt all the time, but I do eat them though.
That'll do it. I'm telling you.
That's all we need. That's all we need, Clay. I mean, and the fact I was listening to GM Shuffle earlier, he was talking about the arm length for O-line, and he was saying, you know what they need to have is a punch length depth. So instead, you take the hand size, if the dude's got shorter arms, but his punch is at the bottom of his wrist till his, till the bend in his shoulder. Even the dude with smaller hands, maybe shorter arms, he could have a longer punch than a guy with bigger hands, that's just reaching out, to the tip of your middle finger. So looking at the 33-inch arms, no problem for him. I think that it would be cool, though, if we ever get to our O-linemen and we have that number. He said that they don't do it, but I think that'd be kind of cool. That's something, though, to keep in mind as we're looking at these arm lengths. 33 is that magic number that they're looking for O-linemen. 32, they start to go, is he going to make it? So I think that's something that we need to keep an eye on while we're looking at DNs.
Yeah, no doubt. And it sounds like you've been doing some studying, Emilio. I love it, dude.
I've been trying. Yeah, I'm still behind on some. I'm still catching up on Move the Sticks, but it's coming together.
Do you feel like already, and say no if it's the end, I don't want you to blow smoke here. Do you feel like helping do the show, you're more engaged this year in how the draft operates and the stuff behind the scenes? Isn't it wild?
It's crazy. Any show I'm listening to, it's like, or especially you guys when you're talking, I'll guess what you're thinking. On whoever the player is, you might be talking about, hey, who's that one guy from Texas A&M, or things like that. But then I just kind of, when I'm listening to them, all right, where's he at on our board? Where would we have him? Is there anything that I'm taking from them that they see that we could put, hey, he has an elite explosion? The numbers I was sending earlier was like Mark Dominic from GM Shuffle. Those were his numbers on grades on Ashton Genty and the running backs as he's going through them. So maybe it's just a little note that we can have that adds it in there because we don't have Lombardi anymore. But little things like that, you just see it come across, and it's really fun to follow it like that.
Yeah, definitely, man. So second on the list is Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M. All right, you guys know he's been in for a top 30 visit as well. We can hit his, and we'll skip over everyone else. I'll just name them off, and then I'll give you guys the damn near perfect fits, okay? Because these are just the guys that are kind of in the ballpark. They think they would qualify, but if you want to get real picky, who are the best fits, we'll hit those in a second. So Shamar Stewart, 6'5.5", 267 pounds, 34 and 1/8 of an inch is the arm length. 40-yard dash is a 4.59, three cones 7.25, short shuttle 4.42, bench press 24 reps, vertical 40 inches, broad jump 10 foot 11, RAS estimated at a 9.8 is what the robot spit out here for me, okay? Fit, yes, Stewart's a freak, 6'5.5", 267 pounds, 40-inch vert, blah, blah, blah. Speed and power fit, Green Bay's defensive mold, first-round stud. Next on the list is Nick Scourton out of Texas A&M. We've talked about him a little bit. Abdul Carter, he's going to be the first edge defender to go if the injury doesn't set him back any, right? Landon Jackson's another one. You guys notice on this picture right here why I put Landon Jackson there? He's like in the 30 spot on our big board. Does that not look like Max Crosby 2.0 right there?
It really does. I was going to – one of those on Move the Sticks, they were doing, would you rather or who would you rather have? Mm-hmm. The one was Landon Jackson versus Jack Sawyer. Who would you take right now?
Landon Jackson versus Jack Sawyer. Let me look at the board. Let me cheat here. Landon Jackson is in the 32 spot on our board. All right.
Okay.
And again, he's spoiler alert. He's a threshold fit for sure.
Yep.
Jack Sawyer is 42 on our big board. He's also a threshold fit, if I remember correctly. So we'll get down to the list of those here in a second. For me, I would take Landon Jackson over Jack Sawyer. What about you, man?
I would do the same thing. I think that just, size, speed, explosion, I think that he would probably be the move. That's kind of where they were leaning as well, though they have kind of been, back and forth on it. The other one he had was Darius Alexander versus Farmer on D-line.
Ooh.
That was another one. And then what triggered it was when you brought up Abdul Carter. DJ gave this to the Browns. He goes, all right, we go into the Browns office. I walk up to the whiteboard draft room, right? I write two things on the whiteboard. First thing is Shedeur Sanders and Nick Scourton. And then in the other column, we have Abdul Carter and Tyler Shough.
So he's that high on Tyler Shough too.
He's not that completely, but he's saying, what would you do? Would you rather take that second quarterback off the board, right? And maybe a lesser D end or a lesser explosive guy? Because he's saying, obviously, Nick doesn't have the same explosion that Abdul Carter does, right? Abdul is a freak. He is top of the list for a reason. Would you rather take the chance on the second quarterback off and a lesser D end, or take that freak at D end, put him next to Myles Garrett, get one-on-ones all day long, and then take a shot on a bigger body, heady quarterback with 4 degrees and everything like that?
So what it comes down to is Shedeur Sanders. Is Shedeur Sanders a true franchise quarterback, right? The more I hear, I don't feel like that. And again, this isn't everybody collectively, but like Greg Cosell talking about him, he's a good quarterback in the right system. I don't want to hear that from someone I'm about to give the franchise to. If you're gonna take one that early, you better know that's the dude. So if it were me, I would probably go is the other option. And like you said, would it be Abdul Carter and Tyler Shough? Is that right?
Yep.
I would probably go that route. And who knows, maybe another quarterback that's rated higher on your board falls to
absolutely. Can you imagine though? Like you got Myles Garrett, an absolute elite DN. You bring in Abdul Carter on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Your defense might win you some games. You might have a chance, to run it. I mean, if you get a guy that wants to play football at quarterback, we're good to go.
All right, and we'll come back to this in just a second. Since you're bringing this talk up, I'm glad you did, man. This is great.
I got us all off track. I'm sorry.
No,
I had to ask you.
It's better to talk about this stuff as we go. So this is good stuff, man. So let's look at the board. Let's pretend this is how the Browns board is set, right? They got Cam Ward in the 5 spot. I'm assuming he's saying that he's going to be gone, right?
Right. Yep.
When the Browns pick. So when you get to the Browns pick, you've got Abdul Carter, who's the number 3 prospect, right? Mm-hmm. And then you've got to go down to number 14 to find Shedeur Sanders. Now, we always say 1 tier higher, the quarterback will leap, right? Well, he's got a grade of 17.9, which means he would leap into this range, right? Okay. So he would be in this pocket of players right here. Well, guess what? Abdul Carter is, let's see how many tiers ahead of him.
That would be
2. So he's 2 full tiers ahead of Shedeur Sanders.
That you're gifting. Yep, that you're already gifting a tier.
Right. So he's technically 3 tiers higher. Give him that 1 tier jump. Abdul Carter still 2 tiers higher. I'm going Abdul Carter. The worst thing would be you you reach a little bit and take Shedeur Sanders. He's not the franchise quarterback you thought. And now you took a much lesser player in Scourton because, again, let's look where Scourton is on the board. And he's a good player, don't get me wrong. But he's in the 37 spot, right? So you're saying, this guy might be the quarterback, the franchise quarterback, but we're going to pass up on some are saying a generational top talent at the edge defender position.
And you already have one of those on your team. Why not just try to bring in another? I mean, you know how much you could learn from him. You know how explosive that defense could be. And that's exactly where DJ was. He goes, he couldn't look away from his board, right? How are you going to let a guy with that much talent slip you by and you take that next quarterback? Is it really worth it? Can you make a run, with someone maybe second, third round talent?
And here are Nick Scourton. Is it Scourton or Scourton? How did they say?
I've heard both. Okay. I think they said Scourton, but Scourton.
Okay. We'll go with Scourton. I'll forget it, but we'll still try to go with Scourton. So he's on the list. Abdul Carter, obviously on the list. Now he's a little bit shorter, obviously 6'3", 259, but he fits the threshold. Landon Jackson, 6'6" and a quarter, 264, 34.5-inch arms or reach. I'm sorry, arm length. And Daryl says Pierce Jr. wingspan 82 inches, Jackson's is 81 inches, Jackson's is 82.
And that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. Pierce Jr. has, he could just have a wider chest. He's got 33-inch arms and he's 6'3". Landon Jackson's 6'4" with 34-inch arms. You know what I mean? The dude could have broad shoulders, and that's a completely different reach if you're punching coming along the edge.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's kind of like stride length and 40-yard dash, right? Yeah. It's like you don't take into account the stride length. I learned that through Greg Cosell, and he said, man, I used to see the 40-yard dash, and I'd watch the tape and go, that guy's faster than his 40-yard dash. That's weird. Then you see him on the football field, and that stride length, it really makes a difference. It does. So next, like I said, Landon Jackson, you got Donovan Ezaraku out of Boston College. Then we got Jack Sawyer. He's on the list as well, 6'4.5", 262, 33.25 inch. His 40-yard dash was a 4.72, okay? So not quite as quick. 20 reps on the bench. That checks out, obviously. 8.5 is the estimated RAS. Princely Humanamelon, if I'm saying that right. He fits the bill here for the most part. Josiah Stewart. Now, you'll notice on some of these, Emilio, see the parentheses right here. Josiah Stewart, it says 6'1". That's too short. Right. 245 pounds. That's too light. Arm length. That's too short. Right. So you get some of those that they're throwing on the kind of on the verge of being in the threshold, and then you'll see the final product here in a second. So
Josiah Stewart does it. I mean, he was that season 5 card, Clay, 97 overall, dropped him right in there at the edge, man. He kind of shored up that defense a little bit.
He can do it, right? He can get it done. See? Next, you got Kamen Rucker, if I'm saying that correctly.
Kamen Rucker.
Height, 6'1.5 inch. He's short for height. His weight's okay. His arm length is short. And his RAS estimated at 8.3. It says fit, yes. Rucker's short, but 262 pounds and 24 reps spring power, day 3 depth. So you see how the system that we have set up here using AI is fudging it a little bit. And that's what I was saying. Anybody who made this final list here, it says here's the final list of 2025 edge defenders who hit most or all of Green Bay's marks. These are the guys that we put the old googly eye emoji next to, all right, the old heart emoji.
Yeah, you went a little crazy with that. That's pretty wild, man. That board is.
Hey, just for the record, Jacob said, "Can we just do like a flex or something?" That looks a little. No, Jacob. No, you're going to get in touch with your feminine side on this show, sir.
We're trying to run up the bill at Office Max when he goes to print this thing.
Exactly right. So here's the final list of 2025 edge defenders who hit most or all of Green Bay's marks. James Pierce Jr. at the top of the list, 6'5", 243, 33.5-inch arms, 4'4", 40, 34-inch vert, 10'3" broad jump. So again, even though he's light at 243, they're saying you can't pass this up. Now, when you go to Twitter, there are people on there, you never hear from them unless they disagree with you. And this time every year, they're what I call the threshold police. They come in the second you mention they draft this or get excited about that. And it's, well, they'll never do that. They said that about Devontae Wyatt because of his age. And we drafted Devontae Wyatt. I'll never forget Ryan Schlip running victory laps over that. Just going, I thought he wasn't going. He couldn't have. So
you knew they sit on the top of the Dollar General sign. You know, they're just sitting there hovering as you fly by on the street.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you come around.
It's
Throw the little beacon on top of the hood as they pull out.
It's unbelievable, man, how miserable people are. But anyway, Shamar Stewart, another top 30 visit for the Packers. He fits the bill. 6'5.5" inch, 267 pounds, 34 and 1/8 inch arms, 4'5'9", 40-inch vert. Look at that vert compared to James Pierce Jr., man. That's pretty impressive. That's a lot of explosion, boys. Yeah. But again, look at the college production. James Pierce Jr. was an animal, and Shamar Stewart kind of lacked a little bit of that, right? Like, I don't want to say he lacked being an animal, but he lacked the production. We talked about that. What was it, like 5 or 6 sacks, something like that?
Shamar Stewart has 6 more inches on the vert, and he has 8 more inches on the broad.
Yeah, eight on the broad. Yeah, that's crazy, dude. So he's Shamar Stewart. We've got 2 top 30 visits so far: Shamar Stewart and James Pierce Jr.
Right.
One, they're both freaks. Don't get me wrong, but one better college production, but less of a freak. Mm-hmm. The other one, an absolute freak, less college production. Right. Yeah. So you guys know where I would side. I would go with the college production. You know, as
we've tried. I mean, I know Jacob's still trying to find that kill, and that's where he's probably at on assignment tonight, trying to find, in the depths of Lambeau. But that's it, man. How many times are we going to try it? Let's try the middle grounds one time.
Exactly. Let's see what Daryl says. Daryl running down the stats for us. Appreciate you, buddy. He says James Pierce Jr. has 25 plus sacks in his collegiate career. How many does Shamar have? Look that up for us if you don't care, Daryl. You can be our stat guy tonight. See how many Shamar Stewart had in his college career. So remember that, Emilio, 25 plus sacks. Nick Scorton, right? Yeah. Nick Scorton, 6'4", 280, 33 3/4 inch arms, 4'7", blah, blah, blah. He meets the final list here. Abdul Carter meets the final list, obviously. Landon Jackson meets it. Jack Sawyer meets it. Princely meets it. And Kamen Rucker meets it. So you've got a nice little blend there, right? You got a couple of guys that are probably going to go really early in the draft. You got one that'll probably go middle of the first round. A couple of them that might go middle of the first round, to be honest with you. And then it kind of, on the backside, it's like most of these are first round or early second. And then that Kamen Rucker is going to be a much later pick, obviously. I don't even know where he's at on our board. So here's what the verdict said, all right? Top fits are Shamar Stewart and Landon Jackson. So it differentiates those between everyone else. So those are hands down. If you went just athletic threshold, they're the perfect edge defenders for Green Bay, according to how Goody drafts. All right. Both massive. We talked about the size and everything, right? This is both massive with freaky athleticism and speed that match Gary's mold. Talking about Rashawn Gary. That some people hate, thinks he's bad at football. But anyway, James Pierce Jr. is a top 10 speed demon, though light, and Abdul Carter could be a unicorn if Pro Day confirms his buzz. Nick Scorton brings day one power, while Jack Sawyer, Princely Umanamelen, and Kamen Rucker offer day 2/3 depth. Donovan Ezaraku and Josiah Stewart miss size marks, but could flex in sub packages. This class is stacked. Packers could grab a stud to pair with Rashawn Gary. So
to catch us back up on that really quickly, Prince was asking, how is Pierce first a run, or is he just a pass rush specialist? On PFF Big Board, his pass rush grade last year was an 89.4. Run defense was an 84.1. True pass set, 83.7. With a pass rush win rate of 23% and a run stop rate of 10%. Yeah, so he was cranking the numbers out, and then I can just pull up Jackson real quick. But while we are doing that, Chad Inc. ran down the numbers. Stewart, 4.5 sacks.
You see what I'm saying? It's tough, man.
That's in his career. Am I right? That's correct, right? That's
really. I thought it was this year. It could be, though. You never know. No, he said it right there, Chad Inc. 1.5 sacks each of 3 seasons. Is that right?
Wow.
That is crazy if that's true. Holy cow. Yeah, so again, that's the rundown of the athletic thresholds in terms of the edge defenders. I've got a tape here of coaching film of James Pierce Jr. And Emilio, I'm itching to show it on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we should do it?
Oh man, I don't want to be the one that gets the next.
Trying to make you take the heat.
Yeah, I don't want to take the heat on the next copyright.
People are going, why are you saying that, Clayton? Because we're told we're allowed to use this tape, right? But where AI is so involved with identifying copyright stuff, if someone else shared these exact clips, right, then it could trigger an AI like, hey, someone else used this on YouTube. They just got to click, hey, that's my content, whether it's theirs or not. Obviously, they don't own the college tape. And bang, they hit us with a copyright. That's what happened before. It was Michael Pratt video.
Yep.
And because it triggered an automatic copyright, somebody was a jerk and said, well, I'm going to claim that. And bang, there we were. That's how we got demonetized and everything. So to the best of my knowledge, that's what it was. Daryl says Abdul Carter is on James Pierce Jr. level on sacking numbers, almost the same. Yeah, Abdul Carter had a lot of good production, if I remember correctly.
And that's good to see. I mean, if the dude is a freak in the unicorn that's going to go first overall, your next best bet could be the producing numbers guy that's still basically a freak,
Yeah. So for me, man, what it's coming down to, let's go back to the big board now, and then we'll come back to some of this threshold talk here in a second. When you go to the big board, now you've got to take all these things into consideration. Everything we just talked about, right? All the good fits when it comes to edge defenders. So why don't we just do this? Let's just cut to the chase here, and let's go to just edge defenders. All right. And this should be in order of their overall grade.
Correct.
So on our big board, we've got Abdul Carter 1, James Pierce Jr. 2, Shamar Stewart 3, Mike Green 4, Michael Williams 5, Jalen Walker 6, Donovan Ezra-Raku 7, then Landon Jackson in the 8th spot. Now, keep in mind, Landon Jackson's got the googly eye emoji there, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, James Pierce Jr. is a better prospect than Shamar Stewart. Whichever one of those are available, Shamar Stewart still scares me, but damn, Emilio, he graded out well on our board, man. 17.3.
He really did. And
it's tough.
You know what I think really helped him was the fact that as you're looking at those numbers, the PFF 22, no bueno, right? Hit to 23. He was 333, not great, but he's getting better. 24, that's what really saved him because, we went back and said, all right, are we going to really penalize this guy for having an 855 and 22 and a 333 and 33 if he cleaned it up and got on the move this year? We really only want that to benefit him. So that in conjunction with the boards loving him, had turned up at the Super Bowl, and like you were saying earlier, those guys that hit the board, hit the match going across. Let's see that Senior Bowl. Let's see where he is on, if he's in the teens on the DJ and 33rd and all that. Then, all right, how's his RAS? What's Greg Cosell think of him? If you have somebody that's hitting all those, he's proficient. He's showing up in each opportunity he's getting.
It's interesting, man. It's a little nerve-wracking, too, because you're like, one of these dudes are going to be an absolute stud, and one of them is probably going to be a bust.
Yeah.
Right? And which one's it going to be? And that's where I always lean towards, both of them played in the SEC, right? Texas A&M somehow, some way is in the SEC now, which cracks me up. So they're both in the SEC. They both played, just like Big Ten, they played top-end talent for the most part, as terms of opponents. James Pierce Jr. had better production, but Shamar, literally, if you removed all the athletic stuff, I about said a bad word. That was close, man. If you removed all the athletic scores, it would be hands down James Pierce Jr.
Absolutely.
Right? But again, we know Goody. He loves those athletic freaks, man.
He does. Let me give you Stewart's numbers real quick. His pass rush grade last year was a 67.2. His run defense grade was an 88.2. True pass rush grade was a 73.5. And his pass rush win rate was a 12.4% with a run stop rate of 5.5%. Basically, his production win rate numbers are half of what James Pierce is.
Yeah, I'm going James Pierce Jr. If these two guys are on the board, I'm taking James Pierce Jr.
I think we have to. We tried it with LVN. LVN can be working on the kiln. Let's bring a dude in that was producing and, can continue. That's why you bring them in, though. That's why you got to bring them in on the visit. That's why you got to see them in person. You'll be able to hammer out a lot of those issues. And like you said, when you told me that, when you texted that to us and that he came, first thing I said was, all right, we're going to know, or we're not going to know. They're not going to tell us, but they're at least going to have a definitive answer on, was the off the field an issue or was it not? And let's move on, because you need to be able to take that border off his card if that's what it is on the whiteboard. You got to be able to take that off and know.
You really do, man. You do. And here's the other thing, guys. These are our first two top 30 visits. They both might be gone when we pick at 23.
Yeah,
right? That could happen.
We could be pulling a guy from the 50s on our board.
Right. Exactly. So let's do this. We've got the board still up. We can go back to it in a minute, but let's switch gears and talk about who were the top 30 visits last year. Okay. And this is something that really kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I had the AI do a quick search, and we got, of course, Edgerrin Cooper up here because he was the top 30 visit, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. So I said, here's the entire list of prospects who were top 30 visits with the Packers in 2024. It says the Green Bay Packers' top 30 visits are a key part of their pre-draft process, where they can host up to 30 prospects at their facility to evaluate them more closely, whether to vet top talent, assess injury concerns, or scout potential undrafted free agents. While the teams keep these visits under wraps, various reports from 2024 give us a solid picture of who came through Green Bay ahead of the 2024 NFL Draft. Here's a rundown of reported visitors based on what's been pieced together from reliable sources, okay? Kyron Amagaji, offensive tackle out of I think he ended up being a pretty solid player for the Niners, if I remember right.
Yep.
Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M. That sound familiar? This dude right here. Next on the list, Javon Bullard, safety out of Georgia. You ever heard of him?
I've heard of him.
This next one's controversial. Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle, Arizona.
Here's the guy.
The reason it's controversial, look right here. It was rumored but not confirmed. So this is one of those that people were saying he came in for a top 30 visit, but we didn't really have a firm confirmation. So right. If people see that and go, well, he wasn't technically okay, you may be right? Let's just remove him from the list and pretend like we didn't even mention him. Next on the list, Tyron Hopper, linebacker out of Missouri. Next on the list, Evan Williams, safety out of Oregon. Next, Jacob Monk, center from Duke. This next dude you may have heard of, Emilio. You want to read it to the class?
Put that name in my mouth right there.
I have one.
Offensive tackle, Georgia
Get ready
State.
to go.
That's what I was looking for.
Next, Michael Pratt, quarterback from Tulane. Kalen King, cornerback from Penn State. Zach Zenter from Michigan, interior offensive line. Michael Hall Jr., defensive line from Ohio State. Xavier Legette, wide receiver from South Carolina. Marshawn Nealon, edge defender from Western Michigan. Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle from Oklahoma. Mason Smith, defensive lineman from LSU. Austin Booker, edge from Kansas. Jermaine Burton, wide receiver from Bama. Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback from Bama. Trayvon Wallace, linebacker from Kentucky. Giovanni Manu, offensive tackle from British Columbia. Jameson Williams, safety out of Albany State. Jerrion Jones, cornerback from Florida State. Katan Oladapo, that's right, out of Oregon State. Omar Brown, safety from Nebraska. He ended up on the roster, right? Christian Boyd, defensive lineman from Northern Iowa. Jaquan Shepard, cornerback from Maryland. Aaron Casey, linebacker from Indiana. Jake Hardison, quarterback from UTEP. And Chris Abrams-Drain, cornerback from Missouri. In the end, 11 of these 30 players landed on the Packers roster. If you don't want to count Jordan Morgan,
1/3, Clay.
Right. If you don't want to count Jordan Morgan, then it would be 10, still be a third, right? So immediately people in the Twitter mentions are like, well, they use them as smoke screens too. I've heard people say that, but I've also heard former GMs talk about it's too valuable to try to send a smoke screen.
Right.
We're going to waste our staff meeting with a player to potentially trick someone else. You know what I'm saying?
You want to waste one or two, maybe. All right, fine. I'm not wasting 15 picks on a guy that. Why would it matter? You need to be able to see how they're going to function in Green Bay, how they're going to, walk into the field, what they're going to feel. Sometimes you just hook, line, and sinker them just by walking into, Lambeau, getting that feeling, and it's over, right?
Yep. And not that necessarily they have the ability to sign no one else, but you can kind of feel that buy-in, and it's like, all right, this is the dude. This is one of the dudes.
Yeah, because that's what kind of DJ and Buck were saying. It's like, what do I think a guy's going to be like when he's in my room. When I'm on the whiteboard and I'm saying, hey, we're going to be cover 3, 3 high, 4 under. I want you to do X, Y, and Z in the flat. I want you to do this in hook curl. Are you paying attention? Do you want to be here? Did you sign up for money? I think you have to know. You have to know that.
It's important, man. It is. So again, at the end of the day, and one of the conversations we were having on Twitter was, well, James Pierce Jr. doesn't meet their size threshold. And I knew exactly what he was talking about. And I just rolled my eyes. I'm like, I'm not on Twitter to argue. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're talking 10 pounds. That's what we're talking. Right. Well, my threshold's actually 268. Okay, there, genius. Take your 1,000 followers and go
He's at Dollar General is what it's been, Clay. He said, just keep the auto door open. I'm coming back in.
It cracks me up, dude. And it's always the people you never hear from. You never hear from them unless they disagree. And they just magically pop up in the mentions. So anyway, Twitter GMs, you got it, J. Cole. It cracks me up, man. And you never hear when they're wrong. Well, I'll keep that to myself. You never hear when they're wrong, right? It's only when they're right. When they get something wrong, they don't come back and go, man, I really messed that one. I got that one wrong. They never talk like that, So William D. Lofton Sr., did y'all answer the question on how y'all feel about the multiple members of the Packers scouting team going to the Oregon Pro Day? We talked
about that with Tim this morning.
I think it was yesterday.
Last night. Okay. All right.
Yeah. To me, it feels like Derek Harmon.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the main one. Like, let me go back to the board here. We're done with this anyway. So anything else you want to talk about in terms of the visits?
No, I think it's just everything we've been doing on the board to be able to give us this visualization is what we're seeing just in this list right here. Like if we had all these options that we did last year, or this year on last year's board, all this would have talked to us. I think us being able to see this now this year, we should be able to put together a nice list that says, hey, out of the 30 visits, we got 15 of them that hit everything, 15 that don't, and just narrow it down. I mean, you could be spot on for 4 out of the 7,
Yeah, I mean, check it out. Like Jordan Morgan, let's assume that rumor was true, right? It probably was, to be honest.
We would have put a cheese at least on the board for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So first round pick, he was a top 30 visit. Second round pick, he was a top 30 visit. Yep. Second round pick, he was a top 30 visit. Third round pick, he was a top 30 visit. Fourth round pick, he was a top 30 visit. Where was Jacob Monk taken?
5th or 6th. I think it was 5th.
Top 30 visit. Travis was
a 6th.
Was he a 6th?
Yep.
Top 30 visit. Michael Pratt, 7th. We won in every round? Is that what we just read?
Yep. No, and Kalen King right there. It says actually right underneath all of them. Taken in the 6th, Michael Pratt, round 7. Went in round 7, Kalen King. We took him as well. Zach Zinter, we weren't able to get our hands on. He keeps scrolling down, and we got our boy.
That's right. Oladapo, 5th round pick. Every draft pick we made was a top 30.
It's there.
So
I had to let it drop.
With that being, you always gotta let it drop. That's what Jacob said at the office. Gotta let it drop. So, every one of our picks last year were a top 30 visit, according to this. According to the research I did. You guys, again, anything that we show on this show, I'm one knucklehead out here trying to, navigate the waters. If you see something we got wrong, let us know. We'll change it. We're learning together, all of us.
That goes for anyone in the Patreon group as you're combing through the draft board. Let us know if you see anything that looks funky.
Absolutely.
We'll hit it.
Like somebody mentioned earlier, when we get the linebackers on the article from the linebackers, they mentioned, who was it? Wasn't Stutzman? Who was it? There was a linebacker
from UCLA.
What was it?
Schweisinger.
It wasn't him. If you say him, I'll know him.
We got
crap
down here. Hold on, I got you now. Todd Campbell, Schweisinger, Demetrius Knight, Stutzman, Higgins, Kaiser, Chris Paul, Bassa from Oregon, Jeffrey Bassa, Jalen Walker, Cody Simon, Kobe King, Barrett Carter, my boy Sean Dolak, Teddy Buchanan.
Bam. So we don't have Teddy Buchanan listed as a good fit for the Packers. He's close. And someone had made a comment, I think he actually might meet the criteria. He probably will for some people's side. We're going off of kind of this average AI approach of, hey, and you'll see it, just like we read off of the edge defenders, it shows why they met that criteria. So, but again, that's someone we might want to add, and that's why I want to talk to people about that too. That's why I would like if you, Tim, Carly, everybody in the chat said take James Pierce Jr. off of that. He shouldn't get the googly eyes. Then we'll do it. But I'm looking at it going, boy, it's 10 pounds. Like that ain't nothing.
It's 3 trips to Culver's. I mean, that's all it is.
But the whole point here is you'll hear people say, well, they use them as smoke screens.
Yeah.
Every one of our draft picks last year were top 30 visits, if I'm looking at this correctly. This list could be completely wrong. I don't think it is, but that's
and
why.
Also remember, most of them are thinning down so that they can run faster for a straight line 40-yard dash that they're not going to use. And we always talk about, hey, you're worried about this draft this whole offseason. You know, you're trying to cut, you're trying to pick up speed, you're trying to pick up a 10th, whatever it is. You need that one extra offseason. You're going to pick up 5-10 pounds in the NFL just by going to the weight room and using their regimen. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not like that's that big of a deal.
Yeah. So the top 30 visits are a real thing. That's the point of the whole exercise. Yep. Top 30 visits are a real thing. So that's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we'll see you on the other side for hour 2. We appreciate y'all.
Hour 2, hit that like, subscribe, Patreon links everywhere. Just click
everything. Appreciate y'all joining us for hour 2. So continuing on with the top 30 visits, some of the RAS talk or the athletic threshold talk, Coach Lynn says, and he probably has a frame to put on 20 pounds. No doubt. No doubt he's got the frame for that. At least 10, right? Mm-hmm. And like Drew D said, not only was it every one of our draft picks, if you include Jordan Morgan, but also some of the undrafted free agents. This probably not going to work out in my favor, but like if you were to just look up Rashawn Gary's weight as he came out of college versus where we have him at right now, look at a picture. You know what I mean? Look at a picture of him coming out of college. Look at a picture of him now in the NFL. There's no way he hasn't put on muscle mass. Yeah,
just not a chance.
And I want to say he played a little heavier in college. I could be completely wrong because I do remember thinking, are they going to play him inside? Are they going to beef him up to be inside?
Right.
And I think
That's right. He did play down.
They actually trimmed him down a little bit, but like you said, muscle mass just bang. He's which he was one of the highly recruited prospects going into college. If I remember correctly, I think he was the number 1 recruit.
That was just like that Oregon day, right? You said where Packers went to that Michigan day looking at a lot of people, but had their eye keyed in on one.
Yeah, and that's back to William Lofton's question. That's the one I was going to get to there. Let me close this out and get back to the draft board real quick. William Lofton, what was it he asked Emilio? It was something along the lines of Oregon's Pro Day, right?
Yep, right there.
Go ahead and read it one more time.
William Lofton said, did y'all answer the question on how y'all feel about the multiple members of Packers scouting team going to the Oregon Pro Day? That was just us kind of referencing. That happened previously at the Michigan Pro Day with Rashawn Gary's draft.
Mm-hmm. So if we go and sort here, this is what we came up with, William. So Oregon, in terms of players from Oregon at the top of the list.
You know what I do? Oh, I was going to say, if you're going to scroll through them, no problem. You can also just type in Oregon Clay and just hit the arrows.
Do that real quick. We did it last night and it worked like a charm.
Yeah, okay.
So if we go to Oregon, and this will include Oregon State too, I imagine, but we'll make sure we cipher through. Yep. So the top player on the board for Oregon players is actually Josh Connerly Jr., offensive tackle from Oregon. Okay. Now,
can I just say this one thing, Clay, before we go? DJ was talking. He was talking. He goes, now it's kind of funny how Mimbo's talk is that he could be that top tackle now, and that Campbell could be slipping a little bit. He said that Mimbo might be the top tackle climbing up the boards, and Campbell could be slipping a little bit.
I can see it, man. I can see it. We've talked Mimbo up the whole time, haven't we?
Yeah.
And let me just give you a little. Let me cheat here a little bit. If you go up to Mimbo, he got the googly eyes and a wrestling background. Don't be surprised if he comes in for a top 30.
I'd be excited. I'd be excited.
I just don't think he's going to be around.
I know.
So that's what sucks. So, yeah, Josh Connerly Jr., he did not get the googly eyes, though, however. So when we get to the offensive line aspect, we'll probably do that on another show. We'll talk about the thresholds for the offensive line. Yeah. But he did not get it here initially, unless I made a mistake, and that's where we'll double check. So anyway, Josh Connerly Jr., offensive tackle from Oregon, might be one they're looking at, but I think it's Derek Harmon. And again, look at the threshold. He meets the threshold, right? He's in the 26th spot on our board, right there in that sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they were all at the Oregon Pro Day to mainly look at Derek Harmon.
Yep.
Get a little closer to him. And who knows, when you go to one of those pro days, maybe you can get a little bit of interview time with them and you feel comfortable enough to go, we're good with him. We don't have to waste a top 30 visit on him. You know what I mean? That could be the case too. So you can kind of double dip. Next on the list here is Jordan Burch. You got to go all the way down to 72 to find Jordan Burch, defensive lineman. Right?
Clay, let me ask you, would you think that if they get a chance to talk to him right at the pro day and then they still bring him in, is that maybe a double target, or is that something that they maybe didn't get to see everything they saw at the pro day, wanted to, double check one thing?
I don't know, man. I really don't, because you never know who they're actually there to spend the most time seeing,
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, if it happens, we'll have the cheese and the target, and that really says a lot, right? So
absolutely.
Jordan Burch, though, so Josh Connerly did not meet the threshold. Jordan Burch did not meet the threshold. The only one so far is our boy Derek Harmon, right? Yes. So let's go on down the list here, see if there's anybody else. Tez Johnson, wide receiver, Oregon, he did not meet the threshold. Jordan James, running back, he did not meet the threshold. Ajani Cornelius, am I saying that right? Ajani, offensive tackle from Oregon, he did not meet the threshold. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback, did not meet the threshold. Terrence Ferguson did. Tight end Terrence Ferguson. He's in the 134 spot for us, so he's got the athletic profile. All right. Next, Jeffrey Bassa, linebacker. He's got the athletic profile as well, the threshold. Jamari Caldwell, defensive lineman, does not have it. Joshua Grays, Oregon State. Jabbar Muhammad, cornerback out of Oregon, he does not have it. You got Gerald Christian Littingham, however Jacob said it. He's one, I think his nickname is Tank, if I remember correctly.
Nice.
I think that was him. I could be wrong. One of them, his nickname's Tank. Anyway, the Packers met with him at some point. He's got the cheese emoji, but he's not an athletic threshold guy. Cam Alexander from Oregon, cornerback, no. Trayshawn Holden, wide receiver, no. Tysheem Johnson, safety out of Oregon, no. Jamal Hill, linebacker out of Oregon, he does meet it. Now, we have no grades on him whatsoever, so we need to work him up, because that athletic threshold's perfect. That might be one of those we've seen, 3 or 4 undrafted free agents that we end up grabbing?
Yeah.
That will be one of those guys too.
We might need to, I know we've tried to dive in, but before the draft, see if we can't pull a number just to get those
Absolutely.
NAs.
My goal is anybody that the Packers met with, or they have an athletic threshold marker, we need to make sure they've got a grade. Even if it's
about 30 of them. So anybody that's in the Patreon group that's dove through the draft board, scroll down to the bottom as it's organized. If you see anybody or have any info on anyone down there without a number, shoot that over and we'll get it updated.
Sounds good. All right. So hopefully that answered William's question there. Let me make a note here. Emilio, anything else you want to add that's on the forefront of your mind right now before we move on to something else, man?
No, I don't. I don't know. I'm pretty excited, honestly. But looking at it, there was a lot of talent for them to take an eye at Oregon, though it wasn't everything you might have first thought. Hey, I'm fine. You have to get your eyes on somebody. The tape can tell you so much, but you got to meet the person.
Absolutely. All right. We already kind of talked defensive tackle a little bit. I think it was this morning we talked about someone had asked, I think it was Crossfire, a.k.a. Hugh Jass.
Yep.
He actually had messaged me and said, hey, can you differentiate with the defensive tackles of where they're lining up and everything, right? And it's tricky, Emilio. It really is, because when you're doing that, what you got to take into consideration, like you do an AI search and it may say this guy's a nose, and he is a nose and a base, but he played the majority of his snaps in the B gap because people were in the nickel a lot.
Yep.
So what I tried to do was take into consideration those things. Like Walter Nolan, he's it showed him as a one tech is what it said through AI. Like, hey, this is a guy you want playing one tech in a 4-3, which is essentially Kenny's job. However, the majority of his snaps came, if I remember correctly, in the 3 tech because they were in nickel a lot, because you get a lot of 11 personnel in the SEC. So
right.
That's something to keep in mind. So before we get into defensive tackles, since we kind of brung it up, why don't we get to that news we uncovered earlier today, man? Which I know you were probably cracking up. I got so excited about this. You guys remember when draft season first started here for us, right? And we started diving in. I made a list. You could probably find the tweet. If you search at Packers_access, the Oval Office, no, I'm just kidding. If you go at Packers_access and you search Walter Nolan with that, it'll pull up one of the first draft tweets I had of the draft season. And it was, these are the guys who are really sticking out to me already. I should do it right now just for craps and giggles. I remember putting that tweet out. Walter Nolan was on that list. I think James Pierce Jr. was on that list too. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But Walter Nolan was like, man, this is a dude who's hands down seems like the best defensive tackle prospect for me. Well, now he dropped all the way down to like 27, right? Well, today he got the Greg Cosell bonus. He jumped all the way to 19. And Emilio hit me up and was like, man, do you think that's enough of a bonus because how much Greg Cosell raved over him, right? So I'm going to play this quick soundbite for you guys here. This was Greg Cosell over on One Bills Live, which is a Buffalo Bills podcast, if I remember correctly. And they're just talking draft with the GOAT, Greg Cosell. You guys will see, in the Patreon group, you have access to our board. You'll see a GC column where we're giving bonuses there. These are people that Greg Cosell absolutely loves in the draft. So it's almost like Greg Cosell, Daniel Jeremiah, Dane Brugler are like our head scouts. And that's how we set our board up. Here is Greg Cosell on Walter Nolan. And tell me if I'm freaking out for no reason here.
I personally believe that Walter Nolan is the best defensive tackle prospect in this draft class.
One more time, Greg.
I personally believe that Walter Nolan is the best defensive tackle prospect in this draft class. He is a power 3 technique. He is really, really strong. He has numerous plays in the SEC that were reminiscent of Jalen Carter's tape at Georgia, where he just had that transcendent, confined space, strength, and power, where he just physically moved and displaced offensive linemen. And he's got quickness to him as well. He played low with excellent leverage and what I call short stroke strength and power. He's got a twitched up explosiveness to him. As I said, he's a power 3 technique. And I thought watching his tape, because I watched him last summer when he was at Texas A&M, and then he transferred this year to Ole Miss, and they had a really good defense with a lot of players, both at the combine and who will get drafted. And I thought Nolan, to me, was the best D tackle prospect in this draft class based on tape.
So I'm just telling you right now, when I heard that, I went, oh my gosh. Guys, you understand there's a guy in this draft, and his name is Mason Graham. Mason Graham is the number 3 prospect on our board.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Prince. Look, I'm not trying to be creepy or anything, okay? Y'all don't take this the wrong way. I was in the shower listening to this show earlier today. And when I heard that, I went, as they say, don't drop the soap. I about freaked out. I was like, above Mason Graham? Are you serious? What do you think about that, dude? Because, again, we're just going to give him a 5-point bonus. But that's why you hit me up. You said, damn, what do we do? Give him a 20-point bonus?
Seriously, because the fact that Greg Cosell puts that much faith into him after everybody for how long now? Months and months and months. Mason Graham has been the one. You don't need to run. You're going top 5. You know, that kind of talent. I think Walter Nolan could make a name for himself, man. I really do. I think that we do have to give him a specific bonus, maybe not 20, but I do think we need to talk about it because that's something that we really need to consider, just being able to jump him that tier. I mean, I think he at least deserves another tier jump from Greg Cosell because there's that much faith in him.
Yeah, and this cracked me up right here, man. What we're going to do now, we'll just kind of segue into defensive tackle thresholds, okay? And this picture, I think this is Shamar Turner from Texas. I think is who this is.
So.
Look at him laughing at the quarterback running for his life. I just love this. And obviously, everybody in the picture that I shared.
He's Turner's Texas A&M. So
who is this right here? Who is 95? Who am I thinking of here? Because he's going to be on this list.
That would be nope, Jade Barron.
I didn't want to spoil it, but we'll do it anyway. Here we go. We'll come right back and give everybody all these names.
Alfred Collins.
Alfred Collins. Okay. I knew it was somebody that the Packers had already met with, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So I was like, let me find an Alfred Collins picture for this thumbnail. Look at him laughing at the quarterback. He's like, oh, I got your ass. Love it. So here we go. Narrowing down which defensive tackles best fit the Packers' athletic threshold. We're diving into the 2025 NFL draft class with full combine data, blah, 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 blah. Everything I read earlier today, okay? It says the Packers under Brian Gutekunst love versatile, athletic, big men who can stop the run and rush the passer in their 4-3 scheme. With the combine wrapped up, we've got official measurements, height, weight, arm length, 40-yard dash, 3-cone short shuttle, bench press, vertical, and broad jump to match against their standards. I'll cover all draft-eligible defensive tackles who tested, highlighting those who fit Green Bay's mold. So here's what we got in terms of the thresholds, okay? The Packers target defensive tackles who can play multiple gaps and disrupt in Jeff Hafley's aggressive 4-3 front. Pass picks like Kenny Clark, 6'3", 314, RAS of 8.87, and Devontae Wyatt, 6'3", 304 pounds, RAS of 9.62. Set the tone, big, strong, and quick. Here's what they look for. A height of at least 6'2" inches, 6'3" is preferred. Weight of 300-plus pounds, 290-plus edge-capable hybrids. Arm length, 33 inches. That's obviously length to shed the blocks. 40-yard dash, sub 5.1 seconds on the 40-yard dash, speed to pursue. 3-cone drill, sub 7.7 seconds. Short shuttle, sub 4.6 seconds. Bench press, 25-plus reps. Vertical jump, 28 inches. Broad jump, 8'6" inches. And an RAS of 8+. Okay, the athletic freak rule. So it says, here's a rundown of notable defensive tackles from the 2025 Combine using official stats from NFL.com and post-Combine reports. I'll list their numbers and flag those who hit the Packers thresholds with RAS estimates where calculable. So Mason Graham, surprise, surprise. Now, it's saying he's a little light at his weight because it set him at 299 pounds.
Right.
You know what I mean? Look, just fart twice that night instead of 3 times, and you'll be 300 pounds.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Arm length, 32 inches, so that's a little short for them, right? 40-yard dash, 4.92, 3-cone, 7.45, short shuttle, 4.52. All of that seems to meet. So when you look at Mason Graham, it's a perfect thing on this athletic threshold. Would you say 1 pound and a little bit shorter arm length would deter you from taking the best defensive tackle in the draft if he was there at 23?
Dare you?
Absolutely not, right? So that's a perfect example.
Yes.
Mason Graham meets the criteria. Kenneth Grant meets the criteria, okay? It did not run, but they're saying projected 5.15 is his 40-yard dash. He's 6'3", 339 pounds. Arm length, 34 and an eighth of an inch. So pretty impressive there, right? He did not test the bench press, however. So you're going to see some of that stuff that you got to kind of leave void, but based off the information we got, probably going to fall in that range. Obviously, Kenneth Grant is a high-end first-round pick, most likely. Here's our boy, Walter Nolan. Let's see how he stacks up. 6'4", check. 305, check. Arm length, 33 3/4, check. 40-yard dash, 4.95, check. 3-cone, 7.62, checks out. Short shuttle, 4.55, checks out. Bench press, 28 reps, checks out. Vertical, 29.5, checks out. Broad jump, 9 foot. RAS, 9+. Estimated. Fit. Yes, Nolan's size, speed, and power are perfect. Jumps and agility clear the bar. Day 1 to 2 steal if character checks out. So Walter Nolan, after hearing Greg Cosell, if he's there at 23, run the card up, Emilio. What are you thinking, man? So far, we'll continue to hit these, but what do you think so far?
I think it's spot on. It's crazy how it comes full circle when we've been talking, hey, our Kenneth Grant's going to be the dude that falls to us. It's going to be, we're going to take an edge. Mike Green might fall to us. James Pierce, whoever. It's pretty wild how it all just comes full circle. You talked about Walter Nolan probably back in January, February, whatever, when we first started cranking into it. And he just gets lost in the shuffle. Some of these guys just bounce around, and we just end up not talking about them because we've taken the same guys the past, 3-4 weeks. I'm glad that Greg said it early and said it now. I hope he didn't say it too early that everybody gets wind of it. But I like that. We're ahead of the game on it.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not saying that I would take Walter Nolan over Kenneth Grant, right? Our board suggests otherwise. I'm saying I believe it does. Let me double check here. Kenneth Grant's in the 16 spot. Walter Nolan is now in the 19 spot. I'm just saying, when you hear someone like Greg Cosell say, this dude right here is, like Chris said, if Nolan is anything like Jalen Carter, which he comped him to, he's like, man, he's got that power rush like Jalen Carter. We need Nolan. Amen to that. That's what we're talking about in a true 3-tech. Coach Lynn said that's a name to keep our eye on for sure. Completely agree.
And if he had gotten a -7, he'd be above Kenneth Grant right now. With Greg Cosell's -5 bonus, he's at 21.9.
Yeah.
If he had a -7, he'd be. I mean,
and I don't want to fudge it too much.
No, I know.
But that's the number I came to too, though, Emilio. Like, if Greg Cosell raves over a guy, give him a 5-point bonus. But if he says he's the best at that position, I kind of feel like that. And on our board, he's not the best at that position. I think that could warrant a 7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I like it. I want to get Tim's take, and we'll ask Jacob, and we'll see. But I do love that because we went with 6 for any RAS that was a freak of a 10-0. I think that's well warranted, right? Instead of the -5, let's get you a little extra bonus and move on. And
like with Tyler Shuck, we've got him in the 130s. Greg Cosell said, I've got him as QB2. Yeah. I'm like, you have no idea how bad I want to just take him straight up the board.
Yep.
But he didn't say he was the best at the position. So we're just going to do the 5-point bonus, and we'll leave it at maybe a 7. I can justify a 7 there. Just something to grab our eye when we're up there in Green Bay doing the draft show, that we go, oh, that's right. Greg Cosell raved over.
That's it. That's why we want the RASs of 10-0s of a 6. All right, perfect. 5s, you're in the 9 to booming up. Greg Cosell -5 likes to do. We're going to put it on the list. I think that, we definitely need to get a number on there, but it's perfect.
All right, moving along, Tyleik Williams. It shows that everything meets the threshold here. It says fit. Yes, Williams, 6'2", is short, but his weight, length, and athleticism fit, strength, and quickness align. Day 1 to 2 potential. Next, Dion
because just real quick on Tyleik, we were talking about him beginning of this whole process. Like everything has been coming full circle. When was the last time we talked about him? I know you mentioned him. I think it was early. You and Tim maybe earlier today, but he just gets lost in the shuffle. When we pull up the chart of, the D-line performance and all that stuff, we see his name. We thought we were going to take him. We thought, maybe we need a nose guy. Maybe we need, T.J. Slayton replacement. It's just wild.
Yeah, and we've got him in the 39 spot currently on our big board.
Yep.
So that's where he's at right now. So Tyleik Williams, keep an eye on him. Deion Walker. This is the one that's really interesting, right? Going into the offseason, he was a slam dunk first-round pick. Now, obviously, he had the back injury. We need the Mike Tyson drop where he says, I broke my back. Remember that? What'd you do? Spinal. Remember that? We need that drop. So, obviously, scored a 3 on RAS. And I can't remember who said it. You guys take credit in the chat, whichever one of you typed it in last night or yesterday, whenever it was. They went. Devondre Sweat was in the 3s, and he was arguably the best defensive tackle that came out last year, at least converting to the NFL. So keep that in mind. But Deion Walker, 6'6", checks the box, 348 checks it. Arm length definitely checks it, 35.5 inches. 5'18" is a miss on the 40-yard dash. So they're saying, okay, he's too slow. That misses. The 3-cone, 7.75 checks out. The short shuttle, 4.62 misses. Okay. Bench press, 26 checks out. Vertical checks out. Broad jump checks out. And the RAS is an estimated 8.2. Fit, it says yes. Walker's a giant, 6'6", 348, 35.5-inch arms. His 40 is slow, but agility and jumps barely hit. Power, 26 reps. Fits first round nose tackle is what they're saying. All right. So, again, will he go in the first round? I highly, highly doubt it. But he's probably going to be one of those somewhere between 2nd to 4th. I would imagine somebody will take a swing on him.
Absolutely.
Next is our boy Derek Harmon. And listen, 6'5", 320, 34-inch arms, 4.97 40-yard dash, 7'6", 8'3" cone, short shuttle 4.58, bench press 25 reps, vertical 28.5, broad jump 8'8", RAS 8.5 estimated. Fit, yes. Everything across the board. All metrics clear. I think that's the first one we've seen so far, Emilio. Am I right?
I think that's the first one that because each of them had something else.
Did Walter Nolan have one? Let's see here. Size, yes.
Jumps and agility clear the bar.
So he's perfect too. Are perfect.
Okay.
So Walter Nolan and Derek Harmon are absolutely perfect up at this point. All right. So it's just something to make a mental note of. All right. Alfred Collins, 6'5.5", 332, 34 7/8 arms, 505 40, 772 3-cone, short shuttle 4.6, bench press 29 reps, vertical 28, 8'6" broad jump, RAS 8.3 estimated, fit, yes. So that one checks all the boxes as well. It says his size and length are elite as well. Okay, so there's a third one, Alfred Collins. And again, why did I put him up here on the screen grab? That's why, because it's, and when you look at where Alfred Collins is for the value, he's one that might not get talked about as much as others, right? But when you look at him on our board, on our big board,
43.
yeah, he's sitting in the 43 spot, right? So Packers met with him. He's on the radar. That might be the Jordan Morgan pick this year.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to keep in mind that it's anybody above 23 of our pick. Obviously, anybody below, but we need to go 20 spots above, easy. On our board, on any board, just to try to get an idea of who you think could be that poll.
Yeah, and again, to compare apples to apples here, Alfred Collins was at the Senior Bowl, right?
Yeah,
he was at the Senior Bowl, and so was our boy Walter Nolan. Walter Nolan got the 5-point Senior Bowl bonus. He dominated the Senior Bowl.
Yep.
So if you were to try to create a cluster buster or a tiebreaker between those two that are perfect fits, Walter Nolan wins. Now, when you look at Derek Harmon, he was not at either, I don't believe, the East West Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl, so we don't have that bonus. So as of right now, it's kind of like, I kind of feel like it would be Walter Nolan 1, Derek Harmon 2 in this cluster here, and then Alfred Collins. But Alfred Collins, I'm telling you, man, that kind of feels like the Jordan Morgan pick, where you go, I wouldn't mind him. Like when they took him, I looked at the board and went, makes sense.
Yeah.
It wasn't like my best offensive lineman on the board, but it made sense.
But it's nobody that's been projected to him, nobody that's been on Mel Kiper's board, on, DJ's, it hasn't been on his, mock draft, things like that. It would be something out of the blue, no one saw it coming, that Goody would definitely pull the trigger on.
Definitely. Next is TJ Sanders out of South Carolina, 6'4", 297. He's a little bit light, about 3 pounds short, right? Or 3 pounds shy, I should say. Everything else seems to check the box. Fit, yes, Sanders, 297 pounds is light, but his 4'9", 840 and agility, fit, strength, and length work. Day 2 to 3 options, so that's another one to keep an eye on there. Where do we got Sanders at? Do you have any idea where we got TJ Sanders? Right below Alfred Collins in the 44 spot. There you go. Now, keep in mind, Alfred Collins does not have an RAS bonus yet, and TJ Sanders scored a -3 there.
There's a possibility we might get some from Pro Days, or no?
I think we probably will. Okay. I think we'll be able to fill a lot of these in. I remember last year, though, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but I remember last year, a couple of days before the draft, throwing my pen on the table going, why the hell can I get some kind of RAS for these guys? Because, the ones who've got it, they're going to get a little bit of a bump.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you don't have anything, they're not getting that bump. But, it is what it is. AFM said, did y'all say bump? Shut up, AFM. Some of y'all got that. Darius,
you're an amazing person. You know that.
Darius Alexander, 6'3", 296. So he's light. His arm length, 32.5. That's short. 40-yard dash, 508. 3-cone, 760. Short shuttle checks. Bench reps, 30. Pretty stout there. Vertical, 28.5 inches. Broad jump, 8'7". RAS 8'4". Fit is borderline. Alexander's under 300 pounds with short arms, but his 30 reps and agility are strong. Day 3 sleeper is what they're saying there. So
he had a -5 on the RAS, so he actually was over 9. And wow. That's just a quick reference we can have, having that -5, having our brackets, knowing where our numbers are. That's what I like.
I like it too, man. Appreciate you looking at it. Where's he ranked? Do you have?
We have him at 79th.
79. Okay, so that's someone that you might be looking at, like, day. I guess that would be day 3, right? Yeah, day 3 sleeper. There you go.
Or day 2, early call.
Never know. CJ West, 6'2", 316, 33-inch arms. Everything is a hit other than the vertical and the broad jump. Okay, vertical was 27.5 inches. That's a miss. Broad jump 8 foot 5 inches. That's a miss. Fit, it says yes. West, 4'9", 540 at 316 pounds is impressive. Vertical misses, but strength and size fit. Day 3 to 4 value. Where do we have CJ West at?
107. You have him at D-line 1. Indiana East West Shrine. Packers met with him, and he fits the criteria.
Got it. So it's saying, you see what I'm saying? Like some people will go, nope, that's a miss because of a little. I love how this did it with AI. Is like it's putting it right there in the ballpark, and then it'll give you the best fits at the end. So here they are. Here's the final list. Here's all the guys that we gave the mark to on the draft board, saying, hey, these guys are fits. Okay, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, Tyleik Williams, Deion Walker, Derek Harmon, Alfred Collins, TJ Sanders, and CJ West. Those are the ones that we gave the check to. And again, if you guys disagree with it, let me know. Let us know in the Patreon group.
Oh, that's what I was going to. Yeah, I had two that you reminded me real quick. From earlier, Coach was asking, why would Birch not hit the thresholds? And then they were kind of wondering on that. But going back to it at Pro Days, he said, knowing Goody's probably asking about 2026 people. And that could be too when you walk into those Pro Days, peek your eye at the talent there.
Was Birch an edge or a D tackle?
He was a D tackle.
D tackle. So he was not on the list at all, was he?
Correct. Yep.
Now, if they missed significantly, they've not been put on this list, is what it seems like. You got to double check it. What was his RAS score on our board?
Birch, we don't have an RAS for him. 33rd had him 69, Dane 51, DJ doesn't.
Okay.
So that's one we might need to do a little dive on.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, Coach. Appreciate you, man. I'm going to get RAS loaded up here. It takes forever to load. So we'll let that sit there and spin for a second and remind me. We'll go back and see if anything's been updated for his RAS.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the stuff we need. You don't need, we have eyes on it, but
absolutely.
For so long, Clay's been looking at numbers all day. I'm sure it's turning to mush. Yeah.
I got up at 6 this morning and started doing it. Did the morning show, took a break, did the morning show, and then went right back to doing it. Literally, Mandy came over and was like, are you coming downstairs today? Like, I was just – she came in and my eyes were completely crossed. So I was
all while trying to recruit the next draft class for 2029.
Exactly, got to keep Notre Dame on top, bro. So here's the verdict. Top fits are Mason Graham, Walter Nolan, and Derek Harmon. Athletic freaks with size, speed, and power to dominate in Green Bay scheme. Kenneth Grant and Deion Walker bring rare size length, with Grant a wild card pending the pro day. Tyleik Williams and by the way, Kenneth Grant's pro day was yesterday, right? So we should be getting that information soon. Nice. Tyleik Williams and TJ Sanders offer day 2 value, while Alfred Collins and CJ West are late round steals. Darius Alexander misses on size, but could sneak in with his strength. This class is stacked. Packers could pair any of these with Kenny Clark, is what it says. So,
gotcha. And to clarify, that's on me. Coach Lynn, edge
is an edge.
Fred Burt. So, but that's my fault because on our board I have him in there as a D lineman.
And it's weird because there's a couple of those that I looked and like, oh, that's definitely a D tackle. And then you look at his snaps and like, played on the edge. Like, what do you do?
So should we change him position wise and in his name position school to edge?
You know what? That might be why he didn't kick into the system here too. But he's not on D tackles either. It's weird.
Right.
Yeah, we got to do some digging there. So we need to.
We'll talk off. We can talk off.
Yeah, just make a note. Don't let me forget, man, because I'm looking at so many names. What we'll probably need to do is put him down as an edge. What's his size? Do we have a size on him at all? We don't, do we?
I could probably pull it up real quick. 2 seconds.
Let's see if his RAS is loaded yet or not. They're over here trying to sell me shoes right now on ads. So, let's see here. Birch. I'll see if I can pull it up right here, Emilio. Birch. Jordan Birch. Yeah, it's not even showing.
EFF does have him as an edge. They have him at 6'6", 295.
Mm-hmm. And right now on the RAS card, they've got his height at 6'4", 279, and he's listed as a defensive end. So we're definitely going to use him as an edge. So remind me, and we'll compare his measurables. The problem, guys, and the reason he probably didn't even pop up, we have no agility testing yet from him that's in the system, and we have no what's the other thing? The explosive test. We don't have that yet. So we'll definitely put him on our board as an edge, though.
Yep, his position has been updated. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, man. See, that's what I'm talking about. You guys think I'm just blowing smoke, and I'm like, this is a us thing, the chat, the Patreon group, the whole community. Like, this is how we put the best product out and have the best information for the draft, in season, training camp, everything that we cover here. I love what we do, man. I love it. It's an absolute blast. So Coach Lynn, you guys put in the real work. Can't wait to see how right we are on draft week. Amen to that, man. Really, the top 30 visits, if we can get all of that information leaked out, boy, we got this thing narrowed down. Somebody responded to a tweet after Knucklehead got in there and showed his ass. They responded and said, we could really probably just go off the top 30 visits. You create a draft board with it, and you're probably good to go.
Yeah, we did all this work. We could have just waited till the end and just said top 30. About a third of them are going to get picked by the Packers. Perfect.
Exactly. So, all right, what else do we got here? So we've covered all the defensive tackles. Any other questions before I take this off the screen here, Emilio? You see these names, man. There's not one of them I see there at where they're projected to be picked that I go, I wouldn't like that pick.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's it. That's exactly it. I'm not mad at any of those numbers. I think we've been eyeballing it since the beginning. We need to at some point. If it's not the first round, second, it's got to be done by the third, I would think.
All right, definitely. All right, so there that is. We're good on that. We hit the defensive tackle threshold. Emilio, you got anything else? I know you've been listening to a lot of pods. If you ain't got nothing, it's cool. Do you got anything that you want to say here before we wrap up, man?
The only other one was who would you rather have was the Alexander versus Farmer question.
Got it.
The question is Darius Alexander. We have him as D lineman, D line one tech. On our board, 79th is where we have him. Farmer, on the other hand, is 193 with a D line of a 0. Okay. But Farmer, -5 Senior Bowl. DJ has him 39th, 33rd team, 125. Dane Brugler, 88, and his RAS was a -1. With Alexander, he did not have where did I have him? 2 seconds. Alexander was -5 at the Senior Bowl, so same bonus. DJ had him 50th. No on 33rd team. Darius Alexander didn't make the top, was it 150 for 33rd?
Mm-hmm.
And then Dane Brugler with a 67. He got the -5 RAS. So the freak difference level of -5 being a 9.0 to a 9.9 versus a -1 being a 7.0 to a 7.9. I know it's not the completely same comparison, but they all went with Alexander, which is probably what we're going to do as well. I think it's just a fair comparison to do, and I think that'd be kind of fun as we're getting closer. We take two guys that are real close in numbers. Would you rather? Maybe we cover their number up and say, all right, pick out of the hat sort of thing, because that's how they were saying they narrowed down their board. You get the cluster of guys in that number. Who would you rather? At some point, we have to narrow that number down. We can't always say we want 4 of them.
Yeah, and Ryan talked about this on his pod the other day, Packernet Podcast. If you guys haven't heard it, make sure you go check it out. Just search Packernet Podcast. It's where you can find this podcast on that same podcast network as well. But he was talking about that very thing, like, with the clusters and everything, right? Yeah. You got to, when you talk about draft boards and you talk about mock drafts, people laugh at mock drafts. Y'all are wasting your time. Nobody's going to be able to guess. Nobody's trying to say, well, I don't want to say nobody. We're not trying to go, look, we figured it out. We got the best mock draft. We'll have contests and have fun with it and everything. But teams right now are doing a ton of mock drafts. And what they're going to have are different draft boards for different scenarios, right? Like if this team takes this pick, they'll probably have 3 different mock drafts. And this is a very, very minute comparison. 3 mock drafts where each time that team will take one of their top 3 needs. And then you look at, okay, who was available on each of those? And you get this group together. Okay, more times than not, these 3 players are available when we pick at 23. Are we happy with that? Do we want to try to trade up? If there's 7 players that we like there, do we trade back? All those things come into play when it comes to those type of exercises. So
it does. And the chat's trying to beg for it. They're screaming mock it.
Boy, I would get killed, guy. We're at an hour 24.
I know. I was gonna say I don't want. We still need to get on the flight to get up there. But Mandy's got a month to work with, and we need him still.
It's so tempting, man. I've been staring at this stuff all day. I would love to do a mock. Drew said do an 8-round mock.
Just the speed round?
Do what?
Just the speed round mock? No, I don't want to get Mandy. I don't want you to get in trouble.
We'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Emilio won't be here tomorrow, so we'll do it tomorrow. That's how it works. Yeah, A-Fan, don't ruin this marriage. It's already ruined.
You do a one-round mock and just take the first pick, make everybody happy, slice it down the middle.
Coach Lynn said do a 2026 mock. Love it. Now, listen, we appreciate y'all. If you're hearing our voice and you want to support the show, people, reach out all the time and ask. Joining our Patreon group is more than enough, right? And it's just the $3 tier, the cheapest tier, gets you everything.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of these write-ups that you guys are seeing, these breakdowns of the thresholds and anything that comes up in Packers news, like we did a breakdown the other day of McCole Hardman, right? Like, hey, here's his career. Here's kind of his career recap. Here's what we're getting in him. All those things are on that Patreon group, as well as a multitude of chats where you can ask questions for the show. Again, it's a way you can support the show, but also get a little bit more value out of what we do here.
And anybody that likes messaging or commenting in the live chat while we're running live every night, if you like to do that and you only get the 2 hours or whatever it is, hour and a half to talk to people in here, once you get in that Patreon, it's over. I mean, it's like you open up a text message and everybody that wants to talk Packers is in there. So
definitely. And we're going to be doing another giveaway. So anyone who's a member of one of those 3 tiers, and again, it can be the $3 tier, we're going to be giving away some autographed cards here. What should we give away first to me? Let me ask you here. We just gave away 2 Lucas Van Ness jerseys that are being mailed out. They were autographed by Lucas Van Ness. We've got cards that were donated by a great listener, Jazambi. Appreciate him. We've got an autographed Mason Crosby card. It's got a piece of the jersey in it, a little jersey patch in it, right? We got an autographed rookie Ketan Oladapo card. We got an autographed Javon Bullard rookie card, an autographed Bo Melton rookie card, and an autographed Sean Ryan rookie card. Which one should we give away next, man?
Wow, that's a tough one. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to win next.
A-Fam says win a date with A-Fam. The Patreon group just disbanded.
Yeah, we lost everybody.
Here we go. I like this. I like what Drew said. Do the Crosby one since he was just put in the Packer Hall of Fame. I like that, Drew. That has some meaning behind it. Let's do
that too.
All right, we're going to do it. And again, Jazambi donated this and said, keep what you want. I'm keeping this one, boys.
How come I don't get a chance to keep what I want? I don't get any offers here. I'm over here paying member of this tier. I can't win a spin on the wheel. It's rigged. Oh.
Look at that. Look at that one of one that Jazambi put together.
Dude,
he created this custom for this one. It's sick, and it's got the Jordan Love. I think it's a rookie card. Yeah, a rookie card on the inside. So
that is so clean.
Anyway, though, yeah, we'll give away a Mason Crosby card. So just make sure we'll probably give it away. Let's see, tomorrow is Saturday. We'll probably do it next Saturday. Okay, we'll give it away next Saturday.
Okay.
The autographed Mason Crosby card. So
you got time. Get in the Patreon group.
Thought you were saying we got time to do a mock. No, we don't.
Well, yeah, maybe.
All right. We're out, guys. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with us. Hit that like button for us. Subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we're on Rumble, we're on X, we're on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube and you say, hey, man, I'm on the go, I like to listen to podcasts, go search Packernet Podcast, Packernet Podcast, and that's where our show's at. Sub to that. Listen to Ryan's Packernet Podcast. Awesome podcast. That's Ryan right there. Thank you, sir. And then if you're listening on the podcast and you're like, hey, sometimes I'm at home cooking dinner, whatever, hanging out with A-Fam's girlfriend, whatever. And you want to watch on YouTube, just go to YouTube and search for Packer Fan Total Access or Packers Total Access. So thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys were awesome tonight. Thanks for your help on the boards and everything. We'll see y'all tomorrow, possibly tomorrow morning. I got to run it by the boss. All right. So definitely tomorrow night, though. Probably not Emilio. Definitely not Emilio in the morning. He'll be asleep.
Oh, yeah. It's been a long week.
All right. Everybody have a good night.
Then we go.
All right.
Bye, guys.